HVARs often take a backseat to other, more effective ordnance available on American aircraft. Almost 70% of American planes from rank 3 to 5 have access to HVARs, not including bombers. This level of ordnance is not found in other tech trees, giving US teams the ability to dominate ground teams in realistic battles. In order of importance, bombs take priority over rockets every time. They're more accurate and they're more reliable than rockets, but unguided rockets require a greater amount of skill, making rocket kills much more impressive and satisfying. That skill can only really be learned with time and practice, but to master the HVAR requires something else altogether. HVAR, or High Velocity Aircraft Rocket, is an American unguided rocket that was developed during World War II to attack ground-based targets. Designed by Caltech, the HVAR was built to replace the unsuccessful FFAR forward-firing aircraft rocket. Pilots desired a faster rocket with a flatter trajectory to make for more accurate engagements. The HVAR was nearly twice the velocity of the older, heavier FFAR. The new HVARs were produced and deployed on P-47s just after D-Day to help with the breakout from Normandy. Corsairs, Hellcats, Avengers, Helldivers, Lightnings, Mitchells, and Harpoons all made use of the new HVAR rockets. Later during the Korean War, America deployed more advanced versions of the HVARs on Sky Raiders and Mustangs. During this time, the United States also saw the first major use of jets in combat, and with these newer jets came a new platform for rockets to be fired from. The newer jets carrying HVARs included Lockheed's F-80 Shooting Stars, Republic F-84 Thunderjets, Grumman F-9F Panthers, and North American F-86 Sabres. With about 1 million HVARs produced, the rockets were eventually phased out of service in 1955 in favor of the newer FFAR folding fin aircraft rocket, not to be confused with the older forward-firing aircraft rocket. HVARs had a diameter of 5 inches and a length of 68 inches. The warhead is 3.5 kilograms of either TNT or Composition B, which has a higher TNT equivalent. The HVAR was powered by a 5-inch diameter rocket motor, giving the rocket a speed of 403 meters per second. The rocket had no guidance system, but the velocity was high enough for skilled pilots to make accurate shots. In War Thunder, HVARs are not your best option against tanks, but you'll usually have them as a secondary option. Many American aircraft will have a combination of both bombs and rockets. Bombs are great, they're practically guaranteed kills, but rockets are difficult. I love getting kills with HVARs because I like to snipe tanks with just a single rocket. Realistically, firing off a salvo of rockets is considerably more effective than trying to just shoot one at a time. But I want those snipes. They're just so satisfying, and it comes from the scarcity. HVARs suck. If you hit a tank with more armor than light, it probably won't do anything. So how do you use an HVAR? The first step is all about the approach. The best approach is from top down, and at higher tiers with better AA systems, the top down approach becomes drastically less viable. Fortunately, most of the HVARs are at a lower battle rating, so for today's purposes, top down is the way to go. Get some altitude, point your nose towards the ground, and cut back on the throttle a little bit. The next step is aiming, and the two important factors for aiming are inertia and placement. Inertia is how the speed and direction of the aircraft affects the rocket. This concept is difficult for me to explain with words, so here's a ballistic computer. The ballistic computer calculates exactly where the rocket will hit after it's fired. As you can see, the default rocket sight is almost completely useless for accurately firing a rocket. While turning and changing speed, the ballistic computer sight moves all over the place. However, maintaining a straight line keeps the sight stable and fairly predictable. This means that when turning into your top-down approach to fire the rocket, you should wait a moment to make the rocket more accurate. This is why part of the approach is to gain altitude and cut the throttle to give yourself more time to aim. Placement is where the ordnance is positioned under the wing. Knowing placement is important because rockets don't come from the center of the aircraft like the aim indicator suggests. Some planes have the HVARs packed together tight or scattered all about. Some planes have the rockets closer to the center of the aircraft, and other planes have the rockets farther out in the wings. To compensate for this, the rockets are aimed inward slightly to converge at a set distance. For the standard 500-meter convergence settings, the aircraft's guns will converge on the aim indicator at 500 meters. However, it seems that rockets are not affected by this convergence setting. Regardless, they will still attempt to converge on the aim indicator at some unknown distance. When aiming for a target at a closer range, range, you can almost imagine the aim indicator being down over here on the sides. For me, I've spent a long time with the P-47Ds, and shooting HVARs is just second nature to me at this point, but the P-47N feels completely different because of the larger wingspan, and I find it much more difficult to use HVARs in the P-47N. You won't have perfect aim on your first try, so familiarity is key. Whatever plane you choose to fly, try to spend a little time in test drive practicing on your aim. What part of the tank should you aim for? Honestly, it doesn't matter all that much. Because of the top-down approach, the rocket should already be hitting the weakest part of the tank, the roof. Usually a direct hit will be a guaranteed kill. If you hit at a bad angle, then the volumetric War Thunder moment armor will just ricochet the HVAR and you can simply fire another rocket later. So that's the 3 main steps to a basic attack run with rockets: approach, aim, and fire. Following these 3 simple steps should make for an easy to remember guide for new HVAR users. Of course, this is easier said than done, and like I said before, practice is key. With dedication and a bit of suffering, you could do some serious damage to the enemy team.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
This is so much fun! Oh man, I love the... A huge part of War Thunder's draw for me at first was the ability to destroy tanks with aircraft rockets. Just the idea of getting a clean rocket snipe on a heavy tank made me want to turn on War Thunder and play a few games. And I guess it still does. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any requests for anything you want me to cover, leave it down in the comments, and as always, bye bye.